Hey guys, this is Lauren with the Untethered podcast coming to you today with a super special segment. I generally do a book series already, but the book series are around 365 days around the year. But today I have a very special friend and guest with me, Ivy, who is an author and a winemaker. So, Ivy, would you like to
Mhm.
introduce yourself a little bit more?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ivy. And I was actually thinking about that because people always say, "Who are you?" And that's a hard question because I can tell you my roles. I'm a mother, a daughter, a girlfriend, a nurse, all of those things. But I guess to say, "Who am I?" When I really think about it, I'm just a person trying to maneuver through life alongside everyone. And so I think that's how I'll stay who I am from now on. I'm just here with you guys and we're all figuring it out. That's who I am.
I love that. That's beautiful. But that's one of the four soul questions that Deepak Chopra asked. And it's who am I? What do I love? What is my dharma, which is my soul's purpose? And what do I want? And so I always lean into those, especially like when my dad died. I don't know what it was, but it was who am I now? It was like, who am I now? So I love that question and I love how present you're being with that because that's what we're all here. That's who we all we're all here together doing our thing. So, Ivy, I'm so very excited. Congratulations on your
Thank
first
you.
book. This is massive. Okay, this is massive. I'm a writer, but I'm not ready to write a book. So,
Mhm.
so congratulations on the book. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the book?
Okay, so I'm getting excited too. It took me about 8 months to write this book, and all of it was a ball of nerves. So now I'm getting to the point of excitement. Um, I've been journaling my thoughts and feelings based around my experiences throughout my whole life, ever since a teenager and a lot into my early 20s. And I decided to compile all of those things in a book. And what I was noticing as I was looking over my thoughts from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, that there was a progressive transformation in my thought
Mm,
processes. And then when I started comparing my thought processes to my outcomes, it was vastly different. So I decided that I wanted to share that with people. And so, if I had to say what my book is about detachment from trauma, mentally and emotionally, and self accountability surrounding that.
I love
And
that.
thank you. The name of my book is called From My Journal Notes.
I love that. I love the fact that that's your theme because as of recent, like losing my grandpa, especially, I had this whole life in alignment program where we would do like mind, body, spirit work. But after my grandpa died, I laid on my floor crying and I was like, this word of untethered kept coming up,
Mhm.
untethered. And what had came through was the fact that like I generally stay very untethered to a lot of things in life, and it's not that I'm not like present, active, and engaged. It's just more so that I have the ability to experience and release, and so
Mhm.
I stay detached or untethered to things. And so I love that that's such a big theme in your book because I live my life as best as possible that way. It's not easy to detach or stay
It's
untethered.
not easy.
You actually want to be tethered in a moment, but untethered in the long run to the
Mhm.
experience. And so I'm really excited to hear you get ready to read. So she's going to read an excerpt, or are you doing a poem today? Or
I'm gonna do an excerpt.
okay, so she's going to go ahead and read an excerpt for us, and we'll probably just kind of chit chat like we have been afterwards and pick her brain a little bit.
Okay. I put a lot of thought into what I wanted to share. Um, and I decided I'm going to share a little bit from my introduction. Give me one moment.
Hmm.
Okay, so it reads: Have I lost my mind or have I loosed it? What do you do with trauma? Does it truly go away or is it displaced? It chases you down, looms like a shadow that shades the identity of who you truly are. This is merely my opinion, personal, not professional, but I believe that you're only traumatized once. Then it goes with you and grows with you, representing itself over and over again, each time with a different face or place, until finally you detach it from your life.
Hmm. That's
And that holds true for me. A lot of times, as I'll be 34 next month, and I'm really big on patterns and roots. What is my pattern? And what is the root of why I do what I do? And what I found is that I'm just reliving specific traumas. It just has a different face,
yeah.
and it's in a different place. So once I recognized that and started going through the process of detachment, it really freed my lifestyle a lot and my mental health.
I love that. I talk about like it's funny because like we all have the same thoughts about things and our expression of them comes off differently. And I think I was talking to
Hmm.
somebody about that yesterday, where like I could be saying the same thing as you, but I don't say it the same, right? Like I say it differently. And so, I talk about that as well, like just like constantly going through lessons, the same lesson
Hmm.
over and over again until, like you said, you detach from it or you learn from it and grow from it. Um, but you're always tested. You're always going to get tested. That's the point. Like to keep getting tested to make sure you've learned, or if you haven't,
Yeah.
to make sure you hopefully at some point get it together. And so, can you read that one more time? I really loved it. Can you just one more time for me at least read that?
How much of it?
Just do the whole thing all over again. I like to hear it again. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Have I lost my? So actually, this is midway into the introduction, but it's the first thing I wrote when I started journaling, um, and it's one of my favorite part of my pieces. Have I lost my mind, or have I loosed it? What do you do with trauma? Does it truly go away, or is it displaced? It chases you down, looms like a shadow that shades the identity of who you truly are. This
Mm,
is merely my opinion, personal, not professional, but I believe that you're only traumatized once. Then it goes with you and grows with you, representing itself over and over again, each time with a different face or place until finally you detach it from your life.
mm.
So
I
if you think about it, as we already said, you're kind of always going through the same thing. We call it triggers, or we call it being toxic. Those are the culturally acceptable names for it. But the root of it is whatever that trauma is
mm.
that you experience. You're just reliving that.
I think my favorite part in there was the gentle reminder that it changes you from who you truly are.
Mm,
We allow our trauma to mold us into who we're not, who our highest self is not. And then from there, it creates this lack. And then we're
mm,
constantly unhappy with our lives and the things going on. And then we're constantly unhappy with the people around us and ourselves. And so I just want to remind everybody who's listening, like, the best thing you can do for yourself, right, is to let go, right? What did you learn? What was the lesson? And I've been trying
right.
to even not even say what was the lesson anymore. It's like the lesson and blessing are the same thing. They're
Right.
literally the same thing. So what's the blessing in this? And then,
That's a good way to look at it.
yeah, because the thing is this, we're getting back to, I'm trying to get people back to the space of it is what it is. You know,
Hmm.
when shit hits the fan, it's hard, but it is what it is. And it doesn't make it bad or positive. But trying to stay neutral in these moments of our uncomfortability is probably one of the most important things you can do. And so like, I actually when I talk about losing like my dad, my grandpa, my stepmom this year, I actually find a lot of gratitude because it changed me. I'm grateful for the changes it created in me. It was the most uncomfortable time of my life since my brother passed away. But at the same time, it changed me. It made me stand up for me more, right? It made me take care of myself more, it made me realize who I needed to start being more for the people that I was like standing in front of. And so it this trauma can change you, but the change is a decision. And I think we need more accountability in ourselves to realize like it, yes, we go through something traumatic. It needs to shape you. It needs to shift you. But to not let it be the crutch that we allow it to be in our lives, right? It's like, oh, well, I
Right.
went through this, so now I'm this. You
An
don't,
excuse.
right? You don't have to
Yeah.
be that. You're deciding to let that be you now. So I think that was a really, that's why I was like, there's a part in there that I need to hear again because I really love that because I'm really big on the accountability in life. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm very accountable for myself, my mess ups. I'm okay with the fact that I mess up. I just hope that I'm gonna get myself together and do better. Um, but again,
Accountability is my favorite word these days because, and that is the antidote.
mhm,
Accountability is pretty much one of the only things that's gonna relieve you from trauma. You can't. There's a saying, and I may misquote it, but you cannot. You're not responsible for what happened to you. Not all the time, but you are responsible for what you do about it. And a lot of times, some of my peers and other people that I encounter in life, like, yeah, that wasn't your fault that you went through that, but that was X amount of years ago. So now it's up to you to live outside of that. And no one can pull you out of that sometimes but yourself. So accountability is very, very big.
it is, and I love coming back to what you just said. Like only you can kind of pull yourself out of it, right? You can have people there to support you and guide you, to encourage you. But there's a big saying that unless you want to change, the person has to
Mhm.
want to change, right? The person has to be willing to receive the messages from others, hear the messages from God to get themselves together and pull themselves out of it. And it's important. Like accountability, I'm learning that more and more every day. Like I'm grateful to coach people. I'm grateful to
Right.
have people come to me to be able to give them that kind of advice. But these people want that. And I've had clients
Right.
who haven't wanted that. And so it's like you have to really want to change. And then you have to be, I always say, you have to be your biggest cheerleader. And at the same time, you have to be your best lover. And at the same time, you have
Mhm.
to be, you kind of have to be the hard ass on yourself. And so it's like this trifecta of being all that you need, but then also leaning into others if you need additional support. But that accountability is such a massive thing. And I think a lot of us are waking up right now to that.
I think to be fair though, accountability has to be taught. I think you don't always know how to be accountable. I know with my daughter, I'm big on teaching her cause and effect. This happened because you did that. So you can cry about what happened. You have a right to feel your emotions and express them, but even more importantly, how do you not let it happen again? There's a cause to your effect. And I think that has to be taught. I don't think people always automatically know how to be accountable.
Oh, no,
So I
definitely.
think it starts there.
Well, I my goal is to run for Board of Education, and then because I feel like you do, there is a lack of education in our society around core concepts like accountability, grace,
Hmm.
compassion, understanding, all things that need to be taught so we can all be our best humans, our best selves. And I think people need to understand that even when we don't think we're our best, we are absolutely our best. And then if we can learn from I don't even want to call them mistakes because they're not mistakes. I don't really believe in the
Experiences.
concept. Yeah, they're experiences, right? Like we've been taught to language everything so negatively and to be so in this space of, looking down on ourselves and looking down on others.
Mm.
I'm really trying to break that barrier these days because like I said, losing three people is like that was an experience, right?
Right.
What
Yeah.
blessing came from that? Well, I'm stronger now, right? I'm smarter now, I'm wiser now, I'm more loving now. It's like, what blessings came from that? That's a blessing for me, whether I liked it or not. It's not
You can learn to cherish your, I know it sounds weird, but you can learn to cherish your trauma because, as we said, it does mold you. It gives you fortitude, it gives you strength, it gives you endurance. There's a scripture about that. I can't quote it now. I don't remember where it is. But we can't appreciate sunshine without rain. So I think a level of gratitude surrounding the things we've been through. How would we know that it's pleasant to sit in the sun if we never knew a rainy day? We would take that for granted. So I think God gives us some level of trauma to help us appreciate the beautiful side of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I did a podcast segment with my friend Leah not too long ago where it's like you can't know what happiness is unless you've experienced unhappiness, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
until you have those negative moments, you can't know what you like or don't like, right? And you can't differentiate between what makes your soul feel good if you haven't things that don't make it feel good. And so,
Right.
yeah, I totally agree with that. I love that.
So, speaking of identity, I know we talked about that a little bit. Um, and you know this, but I'll share with the listeners that this is my first podcast and very nervous naturally, and how I'm going to sound, how I'm going to look. Am I going to say anything that people care to hear? But one thing I've been teaching myself, and you and I talk about it sometimes, is just showing up as yourself. It doesn't matter how I look or how I sound. How I look is how I look, and how I sound is how I sound. It's me. So all I have to do is show up as me, and really, the sky's the limit from there. So I think what I do want people to know, as far as like detaching from their traumas and learning their identity, is to give yourself grace and just show up as you. You're remolding yourself. So find out who you are by yourself. Find out who you are without measuring yourself up against um, a platform or for lack of words, just find out who you are for yourself is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing people, and I'm sure you can attest to it, one thing about me is I'm always me. I'm always showing up 100% myself. I speak how I want to speak, even if it's raw and raunchy.
Mm,
Like there's just no shame in my game, which is one of my favorite sayings of all time. Because at the end of the day, I mean, if I'm not doing anything that's disrespectful to someone else, harmful to someone else, or even harmful to myself, who is anybody to judge, right? And I think,
right.
God, it says it like we're not supposed to be the ones judging others, and we're not supposed to be the ones looking down on others. Like God doesn't even judge you for your mistake. God doesn't judge you for your mistake. God has put you here to make mistakes, to play the game of chess, to play the game of life, and see how you strengthen in your character and in your morals and in your values. And so, like for me, learning that at a very young age, God gifted me with that kind of strength and discernment very young, and knowing that I've just always people be like, "You are wild," and I'm like, "I know." And I'm
Mm.
with it, you know? And so the more you lean into just being you, showing up as you, the right people come too, right?
Right. I
When
can
you're
agree
showing
with that.
up, when you're showing up like half-assed, you're getting people are giving that same half-ass energy, right? Fake energy. You guys are having these boring conversations. You're not really digging deep. But when you start hanging out with people that like you're showing up as you have these conversations in depth. Like my friend Brooke and I went to this event in Alabama. We had a real deep convo night, and it. You know why people can have these deep, meaningful conversations with me? Because I show up and create the space. I'm always me, always a safe space, always an open space. So when people come to me, they already know they can pour their heart and soul out. They can cry, they can laugh, they can say the craziest thing. I just like, yeah,
Let their guards down.
right? So just remember that the more you are yourself, the more you're creating space for others to show up. And then you're creating a tribe that is full of people who actually love and support you as well.
Right. But also too, and one thing a lot of people don't like to do is you have to spend a lot of time alone. You have to
Oh,
like who you are. I didn't begin to like who I was until I liked who I was alone, without anyone calling me, texting me, without me going anywhere, just sitting in my own company. It's hard, but after a while, I was like, you know what? I like who I am by myself. And that gave me the confidence to be that person. I sat there in my alone time. I had a period of isolation, which we all have, and I began to figure out who I was and learn who I actually was. And I liked it. So now when I'm around people, I can be confident in the fact that I actually do like myself. So that frees me up to like you.
yeah.
I can look past myself. And if I can give myself grace, I can give you grace.
Yeah.
So
I've
that's very
always
helpful.
I've always spent a lot of time alone since I was a very young kid. My family really wasn't around at all. My parents either. So I was again. I think that's kind of why I am the way I am now. Right? There was nobody around to mock me, to talk down to me. There was
Mm,
nobody around to. I got a little judgment here and there, but it wasn't so like often because nobody was around. So there was no one
right.
around to tell me I was a wild girl. There's no one around to tell me I shouldn't act or think the way I think. I was always just that space. And so at a very young age, I was alone. I was learning myself. And so I couldn't agree more. I mean, that it's very imperative to spend time alone. Even now as an adult, I spend a lot. I know people see me out and about and doing all these things, but I spend a lot of time
Mm,
alone still. I go on trips alone. I'm single, so I'm home by myself every night. And so it's like one of those spaces where 100%, like if you don't have quality you time, you'll never know who you are. You'll never
right.
know who you are and what you want and what you enjoy because you're gonna always be leaning off of other people, what they do and what they think. And so I
Right. I
wholeheartedly,
love going on trips alone. I love going to the movies alone, going to eat alone. And also I like it because I can just spend my money on me. So I encourage people to find that alone time.
absolutely, and do all the things. People be like, I don't know how you do everything you do, and I'm like, I just do it. Just do
Yeah.
it. Create the time, create the space. I don't believe in time. So like if I want to do something, there's always time.
Right.
There's always time. Time, and it's been proven time moves slower, time moves faster, and the concept of life, dependent on your perception of it. So if I say there's time, well, guess what? There is. And so encouraging you to create the time in your life and to experience all the things you want to do because you're only here, that's what you're here for. You're here to learn. Here to
Right.
explore. You're here to get closer to God. And it's really important to have that quality alone time because not only in that quality alone time do you get to know you, but you get to know God. You get to know who
Absolutely.
God truly is, not what man told you God is. You know who God truly is. And if anything, that should be probably one of the most important things we need to lean back into. So that way we can
Right.
truly find who we are. Because we are here to be of service to man for God.
For God. That's my foundation, and I'm proud of that. Having a life where I follow after God and after His heart and after His will and desire for me makes my life a little easier. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. What
Yeah.
does God want me to do? So, we have free will, we have our own mind, but in moments when I'm stuck on a big decision, God, what do you want me to do? It just makes it so much easier. And so that's my foundation. That will always be my foundation. But I do understand it's not everyone's. So what I like to encourage people is to have a foundation. There should be something keeping you grounded. There should be something healthy keeping you grounded. And for me, that's God.
100%. Absolutely. And kind of going back to it, God will ask you to meet them wherever they're at. And so wherever you're at, and I'm starting to lean into the concept of as much as we think God is just one way, God's not one way. God's whatever way you need God to be to lead you closer to the light. And so I was an atheist and many years ago when my brother died, and then I found God wholeheartedly through spirituality. And I have to say, just recently, like the downloads from grounding into God and lately, and to ground into the lessons of this last year have been amazing. And so I too ground into to God and the words that God sends me. So but find something that you can lean into. Let your spirit be led closer,
Right.
right, to God in whatever way that calls for you. So yeah. Oh, so that was yummy. I really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to like talk about around the book? Please let us know when it comes out.
So the anticipated launch date is between June 30th and July 7th. I'm working on website. I'm working on all of the tools to be able to get that to you guys. Um, but why I want you all to read my book is because I share a lot of vulnerability, and a lot of exposing things that were meant to, and at some point in my life, they were stopping the growth of my life. You can't live past your mind. You can't live beyond what you think. And one of my favorite quotes in my book is, "You can't heal from what you hide."
Mm,
So essentially, when reading this book, you're reading my diary. I share a lot of things that I've never talked about out loud before. And I share how it shaped my mindset and my thought processes. But then I also share how changing my mindset and my thought processes did change the outcome of my life. I'm happier now at 34 than I've been my entire life. And I never knew that I could be happy. In my 20s and my teens, I had already settled on the fact that I was not going to have a happy life and my life was not going to be what I dreamed it to be. And that was holding true because that was my mindset. Once I detached those, and it was based around those traumas, those traumatic experiences. So once I changed, I can't undo the things I've been through, but undoing what I thought about them helped shape my identity of what I thought about myself. And it helped change my mind. And now I'm doing things that I never thought that I would actually really do. And I'm living how I never thought I actually really lived. So I'm passionate about that. I want people to live outside of their thoughts about themselves.
I love that. That's so beautiful. It is so easy to think that we can't be happy, and it's like I couldn't get back to center, but we most certainly, again, it's a choice, right? We decided
Mhm.
we couldn't be happy, and then at some point, hopefully, we decide we can, and we do all the things to support that and nurture that. And so
Right, exactly.
I loved, say it one more time. You can't heal what you don't share. One more time.
You cannot heal from what you hide.
You're not healed from
You
what you
cannot.
did. Yeah, that's
Our, the,
really
I
powerful.
know, like our parents' generation was the sweep things under the rug generation. But then years later, they're bitter or they're angry or they're whatever they are because they still have all that dirt under their rug. And I think our generation is learning to clean up our mess.
100%. We're definitely more emotionally adaptive. We definitely are more expressive. I kind of so what you said, you can't heal from what you hide. Like I talk about when I lost my dad and how like nobody was around and I just really shut down and I didn't really have much of a support. But then when I started having some crazier experiences, like losing my grandpa, kind of being homeless in November because I had broke up with the ex and was traveling for like a whole month and then losing my stepmom. And the more I spoke about the things I was going through, the more support I've had, right?
Right.
And it's not even like the healing part. It's just like for once I felt in my life, like I actually had people who cared, like for once I actually and because my parents were around growing up, I never had people around that cared. And so to experience that as an adult where people are like you said, like just expressing myself, my experiences,
Mhm.
letting everyone know that they're not the only ones, but like right now I need extra love because I'm not doing well, has helped me. kind of move past things. Like everyone's been sending me things lately, like about grief and loss, and just staying strong. And I needed that. And I keep saying that if I hadn't been honest about how like unemotionally okay I have been, I don't know if I would have made it these last few weeks. There have been multiple times where I was worried about like ending the day, like for real, ending the life. And so I've been talking about that more. Is like it, if you feel like you're losing it because you're going through so much, share it, get it out.
Right. There is no embarrassment at all.
No,
And someone's always going through what you're going through. Always. Someone in the world, not too far from you, is always going through what you're going through or have already gone through it. So
exactly.
there's no shame.
Exactly. And I think because like you said, we are a different society. This is a different time. And so when we're sharing and opening ourselves up, you are definitely going to be well received. And
Right.
I've told my friends, like I'm like, I don't know, you guys don't realize it, how many times you saved my life in the last few weeks, just telling me to stay and hang out, calling me, texting me. There's been multiple times where I'm just like, thank God, thank God, thank God.
Right.
I feel like I have the love and support in my life that I need for once. And so make sure you share all the things you're going through. You're not being a burden. Um, you're not being too much, you know? And if people, I said this the other day, if the people that you hang out with think when you're sharing what you're going through and you're not saying woe's me, you're in the heavy, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're around people who don't give you the support you need sometimes, then think about finding new friends because at the end
Right.
of the day, you're not all like I'm not always going through something. This last year has been wild. This is the first year in years that I've been through as much as I've been through. And so if
Right.
I can't lean on people, especially when the way people tend to lean on me, then I'm not hanging out with the right people.
Right. And there needs to be a balance in the friendship.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. So just make sure by sharing yourself, you're gonna light up the world. You're gonna draw on that tribe. And then you're just gonna keep doing the good Lord's work by sharing yourself. So you love it. All right. So your book comes out. Say it one more time.
We're looking at between June 30th and July 7th, launch date. Depends on how things fall, but I'm excited. It's one of those dream come true type of things. One of those things that I've always wanted to do but never thought I would. So I'm ready.
I'm ready for you. I'm very excited. Her website will be up. We have a video to shoot once we get a copy of the
Mhm.
book. So I'm really looking forward to that. You'll be able to buy the book off the website uh,
Mhm.
through one of the links. And then again, she is a winemaker as well. And so I'm looking forward to her growing into that, maybe even putting out more books. You never know. Uh,
I'm working. I'm actually, I got my groove. I'm actually working on some more books.
And I love that. And I love seeing you grow. And I'm just so grateful for you taking this time with me and the audience to talk about your book. I'm really looking forward to it. I've kind of skimmed through it. But I'm looking forward to doing
Mhm.
a little bit of a deeper dive and doing more podcast segments with you as well. So Ivy will be back with us. She'll be kind of doing more segments and excerpts or poem reads from the book. So please make sure you keep your eye out for this amazing woman that God has blessed us with. And so, Ivy, thank you so much for being with me today. Everybody else, I'll see you later.
Thank you for having me. I'll talk to you later.